That is Ginny, Tim, and Eli from DS Tech in Escanaba, Michigan. We are going to talk about Crowdstrike's blue screen Blunder.
Yes.
So if you have, I'm sure you've seen the word Crowdstrike in the news and some of the stuff that's been going on. So we'll talk about that and what you can learn from that. Make sure you go to our website, dstech.net, and sign up for our newsletter and look for your free security assessment. I'll tell you more about that later. And let's talk about this CrowdStrike Blunder.
Yeah.
What happened?
So first, just so people understand what CrowdStrike is.
Yeah, good one, because I didn't.
And first, I also want to preface this is not a cybersecurity like hack, you know, or malicious on purpose. It was literally just like a bug in the software that got released. And so I'll go over that in a little bit. So what CrowdStrike is, they do all kinds of different software, but this one particular piece we're talking about today was in their Falcon platform, which what that does is it's very similar to other next-gen AV products. So it can do like next-gen AV, endpoint detection and response. It does some firewall stuff, kind of like
AV antivirus?
Antivirus, yep. So it does protection for your system, and it's installed on millions of devices worldwide. It's one of the biggest ones in the industry. They do like almost half of the Fortune 1000 companies. Like they actually secure like Microsoft servers. Like, so you're talking government, all this kind of stuff. So they're on a lot of endpoints. And so basically what happened was it's a driver. And so what happened was in the driver, there was a line of code that was referencing invalid space in the memory, which didn't exist. And typically what happens with Windows when that happens is it just shuts the program down. So if you're ever using a program and it just crashes on you and it closes out, that's because maybe something glitched out in the software code and it referenced something under the hood. And Microsoft's way of dealing with that is just close it down, start it over, and crash that program.
Is that the blue screen of death?
Not quite there. This is just
okay.
before that. This is
just
you're opening your browser and all of a sudden your browser just crashed because it kind of something weird happened, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
This because the software was so deep hooked into the kernel of the Windows operating system that when it crashed, Windows basically decided to just kamikaze the whole system and blue screen of death in order to stop the entire program from running. So what happened then is your computer shut down. You turn your computer back on, you're greeted with the blue screen, the frowny face, right, that says, you know, please contact Microsoft, blah, 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 whatever, and you're stuck in a loop now. You can't turn your computer on because it's just crashing every single time you touch it. So in order, you can't download a new update to revert it because you can't even get to the point you're connecting to the internet.
Your stomach drops because you can't get your work done. Right?
Exactly, yeah, you can't get your work done, and it affected so many other systems, not just like your servers and your computers, but like cranes, which had Windows embedded in them. All kinds of things were crashed by this. And so the best way to kind of describe this is, here's an excerpt just stolen from like a random Reddit post that someone says, you know, I'll just kind of read it verbatim, basically says, you know, I work for a diesel truck repair facility that just, you know, locked the doors after about a 40-minute workday. The lifts wouldn't operate. They can't disarm the building alarms, which have been blaring nonstop since they got there. All the cranes were locked in standby return error mode. The laser aligners were all offline. The lathe hardware would run, but all the controllers were down. They can't email suppliers. The phones were down. HVAC was down for some reason. And then the police drove by and told them to close for the day because they don't have 911 service in that area currently.
Oh my gosh.
So again, it's just like everything was just stopped in the area.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Oh my gosh.
And the problem with this is normally if like something happens like this with remote software, you usually can like remote into the computer and kind of fix it and kind of revert the changes. But because it was stuck at that blue screen before your computer even started, it required a tech to physically get on each machine, hit some special keys before it starts, find the problematic file, delete it, and then restart the computer, and then it would finally restart normally. And then at that point, it would revert, and be corrected. So, but it caused massive issues. You know, all these flights were delayed, as you saw in the news. Those were the ones in the news. There were banks that weren't working. The stock market was actually down for a while. And the sad one too is a lot of hospitals were affected. Like literally, lives are on the line. That's why I don't want to, joke about this too much. Is that a lot of hospitals were like, all of our systems are down, our patient records, all this stuff. They had to go back to the old way of working. So it caused just tons of havoc all over the place.
You have to wonder.
It almost was like, it almost took up the torch of, back in the day, there was this, people were worried about this Y2K bug, right?
I remember that.
The idea with that is that software was programmed in the 70s, 80s, 90s, all for the 20th century. And so all the dates were programmed with 2 digits. So all your date was either an 80, an 85, 90, 95, whatever. And so people forgot that, once we do 00, we don't want the computers thinking it's 1900. And so there was this big fear of all the computers with bad code only crashing and everything's going to go havoc. Well, this kind of reminded me of this is almost like what Y2K would have been if it actually crashed.
It would actually
what would
happen?
happen? What would happen? And it's this is kind of what would,
Interesting.
So
this is kind of what would happen. But
so really,
Tim, I have a question.
Yep.
So, we always encourage updates. Right?
Yes.
But what's the difference here?
The difference here, and this is still speculation at this point, so I don't want to say anything for certain, but typically when you're updating software, you do like a test run, right? So you'll update it on a virtual system or a fake system, see how it runs. If it seems to go well in your testing environment, then you'll actually push it to production or the actual systems. Here, it looks like either someone skipped that testing phase or they just had a poor one, or I can't really speak to what happened exactly to push. We're still waiting to see who's in trouble here, but it sounds like either their testing procedure is bad or they just skipped it one time. Someone was lazy and forgot to test it, just decided to push the update anyway, and then it can cause havoc on all the systems because it even overrid the local update settings because it was like a driver update in the system, like an antivirus update in the background.
I guess I'm just wondering how would you avoid something?
There was nothing you could do.
If you worked for the company, there's things you could do to avoid it.
If you were lucky and
you're
lucky and your computer was turned off at the time the update went, that's how you got lucky.
Nothing you could do in
for
that
us. We mitigate those risks here before.
Yeah, we try to always test. We turn automatic updates off, and we plan our updates during a maintenance window of say 2 a.m. when you're not working. So if something were to happen, usually maybe we can catch it and revert it. This though, it was so underlying. It just shows the interconnectedness of everything and how sometimes you just can't avoid it. So the best thing is have a good business continuity plan where if everything goes down, you still have a way to function and limp along until systems are restored. Whether it's a natural disaster, a hack, a bug, like in this case, which wasn't even trying to be malicious, just happened to just cause all this chaos. So having those plans in place, hopefully you never have to use them, but they're vital for this reason, is that you can continue to work even when things are down. And so it kind of goes along with your incident response plan, where something happens, how do we do it? How do we limp along? And how do we continue to function without all of our computer systems or just certain systems? If these systems go down, how do we work? And these systems, you can come up with different scenarios, but kind of brainstorming on that and coming up with a plan is very important, because then when things are happening and everyone's all stressed out trying to figure out what to do, you can just go back to your plan and ideally follow everything there.
Would it be safe to say that if you're a client of ours, then maybe has participated in several or even one of our disaster response and recovery trainings, would it be safe to say that you're probably better equipped than
a
huge
portion
of
because again, if you're planning for say a natural disaster where a hurricane comes through or a tornado whacks out your building or something crazy or a blizzard or whatever, it's going to be the same thing where everything's just down, and how do you function right with certain things? And so there was other unintended consequences. For example, like everyone in the Amazon cloud was trying to update their Amazon instances, and typically Amazon's cloud is just, the cloud is just someone else's computer, right? So typically they're fine with everyone updating, but because so many people were accessing Amazon all at the same time, it was actually kind of chugging along slow even to update their Amazon servers, because everyone was logging in to try to do it at once. I mean, you're talking like half the world's internet's trying to get onto Amazon and fix their instances for different things.
Everyone's trying to watch their season finales and everything.
It was pretty crazy. They think that totally affected about 8.5 million to 9 million computers. Wow. They're getting the blue screen of deaths. I mean, you saw the videos in the news where airport terminals had the frowny faces everywhere. It was just, it was crazy everywhere. So thankfully, they're through the most of it now.
Technology can fail.
Yes,
it does. So have a backup plan, right?
Yeah. Biggest thing I can't stress is have an actual plan in place for when systems go down, and that way you can have something to work on and work through until it gets remedied, whether it be an actual true hack / ransomware event, whether it be natural disaster, or in this case just a bug and a glitch in the system happened to take down a ton of systems that everyone relies on. So
wow.
And gosh, it's just shows the value of communication.
Oh yeah, being able to communicate, have if say all your phone systems are down, to use cell phones as backup and train employees and everything. Yep.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Like in
just
paper
like
receipts or paper like we were talking before, paper analog type healthcare.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
so-
Well, yeah, one of my cousins who was in nursing was talking about how that the younger nurses coming through the system now that were, say, 18, 19, 20, or, young 20, just fresh out of nursing school, they have only had experience with using everything in their computer system. So when all of a sudden everything stopped and they had to go to paper, they were never trained in this, and they're all trying to learn on the fly, and it was just a kind of a very
That would be tough.
Yeah, there's the difference
frustrating.
between like, just like intelligence and wisdom there too. Because there's people, I mean, they're smart as a whip, they're fresh out of college, but it's like, oh my gosh, unless
what do I do?
you've been through it,
You've never been
or
trained or
you
something.
haven't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember years ago. I obviously I was not a nurse or anything, but I was selling vehicles, and we had a big power outage in wintertime, and had someone actually come in and was looking to purchase a car, and
you're like,
one of the managers actually pulled out and did a Foursquare. They just wrote it on a piece of paper with a foam marker.
What's a Foursquare?
It was like a number sheet, but it was a worksheet. But yeah, it was just like, oh,
by
wow,
hand,
I wouldn't have been able to do that. Yeah, because I was like 20 or something at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was cool just to see like, oh yeah, he's got it. Yeah.
You wouldn't even think of it,
No,
honestly.
No,
I mean
Yeah.
who thinks of it these days? I mean, we rely so much on our technology.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep. So just to have someone around that's able to like be the the pillar of support, maybe have a designated person.
Or just have it documented somewhere.
For sure.
That's where you have communications outlined in your business plan too. It'll be like, here's the people that get notified instantly in the incident, and then it can trickle down from there, and then they're in charge of the respective teams for keeping communication going, and all that'll be done. And so if you're a client of ours and you want to revisit your plan, obviously reach out. We can work with you on that. Or if you're not a client, become one, and then we can help you out. So
reach out reach out to us at dstech.net, and we'll be happy to talk with you. If you're not a customer and if you're a client of ours, then by all means, let's schedule what's it called, a tabletop
exercise where they're kind of reviewing what happens and just simulate, if all your servers went down, what would you do? Or if you lost all your cloud apps, what would you do? Or if your building were to literally get taken out in a snowstorm, what would you do? Have different kind of scenarios, and then kind of work through processes for them and all that.
I've heard good things about these tabletop meetings.
Oh, yes.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They get you thinking.
So. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
If you want a free security assessment, drop the word scan below this video, and I'll make sure you get that information. So, are we good?
I think
we're
so.
Good. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching, and can't wait to hear from you.